4 years ago, I was trapped. And as I glanced around, I saw a house with holes in every single wall, paint and food splattered across the carpets, and everything that it stood for completely torn down. So much so that this place could no longer be called a home. And this wasn't my home. And it wasn't, the people that I saw around me were not my family. But these people, I tried so hard not to disappoint, and I avoided every mistake I possibly could, because these kids, were, as I thought at that time, my friends. And because I knew them since around first grade, I thought that I had to do everything they wanted to do, and I followed all of their twisted ideas of fun. In this particular instance, my friends noticed that that house had an open back door, and we walked in. It was a house that was for sale, and it didn't seem to have any active owner. At that time, I imagined that perhaps we were just, taking a look around, and I didn't think it would be that big of a deal. But everything, as it always did, escalated. And very quickly thereafter, my friends thought it'd be a fun idea to destroy the house, tarnish its value, and prevent the owners from ever having a chance of selling it and recuperating what was theirs. And this was all a game of fun to them. 4 years ago, I was trapped by peers that suffocated my potential. And that incident of the house was completely a microcosm of my entire experience before I came to IMSA. From fights, suspensions, and a second home in the principal's office, I was one of the last people you would expect to ever do anything significant, and that contributed in any way positively. But luckily in freshman year, I moved on to a private school and took my first huge step towards change in my life. And what that did is it essentially cut me off from communication with those friends that I stuck around with my entire life beforehand. But despite the fact that I was no longer with those friends and I wasn't getting in trouble as much, I couldn't function independently. In fact, I was terrified to ever speak my mind. And the thought of being in a discussion with someone else and the thought of interacting with new people made me not want to go to school every single day of my freshman year. And I would dread the moment every day where those teachers would ask me to respond to a question in front of the whole class. And I wasn't scared because I was wrong necessarily. I was scared of being right. And the issue was that my entire life, the expectations of those around me was for me not to be right academically and not to do the right thing. So instantly, that was one of the hardest concepts for me to grasp. But in just 1 year, there was still a huge shift. I went from someone that was constantly in and out of trouble to someone that was isolated from everyone and everything around me. And then come sophomore year, I took the next giant step in my life towards a huge shift, again, a huge change. And this time is when I came to IMSA. And very quickly, I realized that being right was okay. And I realized that having things like ambition, compassion, and a genuine desire to improve the future was necessary. And I realized that brought us all closer to a positively meaningful life, both now and through the legacies that we pass on for each generation thereafter. And so, with that, I'm confident these past 3 years have made me very confident that each and every one of these seniors will have enormous success in their lives. There's no doubt about it. But one of the things that has to be taken into consideration, both when you reach that point and up until then, is to never forget the people, those friends, the family, the mentors, the instructors, and the role models that got you to the point where you are now and where you will be in the future, but along with that, the circumstances that made all of that possible in the first place. And by understanding your contacts, you're better equipped to help everyone else around you because your expertise is greater in no other area than the area which you have experienced yourself. So putting everything in your own context allows for you to help everyone else develop theirs as well. And I think it's very obvious to say that seniors, this moment and tomorrow's moment is going to be incredibly bittersweet. You're going to feel sad, obviously, that you're going to miss those friends that you share the most fond moments here at IMSA with. And at the same time, you're going to feel that perhaps you're losing the most crucial part of your past 3 years and losing a big part of who you are and what made you be who you are today. And I share those sentiments entirely. But if there's anything that I've learned in my entire life, it's that who you've been in the past and who you are today is never a limit to who you can be in the future. Each and every one of you has something that you want to fix and improve in your life, whether it's about your personal self or the circumstances in your life in general. And perhaps you've tried to make these improvements in the past, and perhaps you've done everything that you can to improve this situation, but the results just haven't followed. And that, what I want to say is that it's not an indication of improvement being entirely impossible, and it's not an indication of you having to stick with the same old life that you've had the entire time, but it's an indication that perhaps something needs to change, something needs to be different in your circumstances to allow for all of this to be possible. And that something that I'm referring to is merely as simple as a change in environment. It is embracing new circumstances, new opportunities, and new challenges. It is realizing that change doesn't deprive you of who you are or who you were, but instead provides you with new opportunities to build who you're going to be in the future. And that's a very important distinction to make as you move on to the next stage in your life. And then it's something that's very close to what Dr. McGee has said, in making every single day an excellent adventure, but by extension of that, making every single day in every aspect of your life a vital learning experience and an ongoing learning experience. And to illustrate what I've said, I'd like for every senior to think back to who they were 3 years ago, right before IMSA. Just quickly think, and now think who you are today. And I think it's very easy to claim that there's a very sharp switch in who you are. In some fashion, you've changed. In some fashion, you've matured. And in some fashion, you've developed. And now, perhaps more difficultly, I want all of you to imagine who you're going to be 4 years from now as you graduate college. Understandably, that is a very difficult thing to ask anyone to do. But that's fine. And not knowing who you're going to be 4 years from now is part of the beauty of all of it. And you may feel a bit insecure, a bit out of your comfort zone, because you've been expected in IMSA's environment to go home to the same thing over and over again in an environment that you're used to. But these circumstances that are being thrown at you, this new stage in your life, is nothing but an opportunity to change as a person and to address all of those things that you haven't been able to address thus far. It's a new environment with new challenges, new opportunities, and as a result, by extension, a new you. And a new you is exactly what you need to do to reach your fullest potential, because as you start with who you are today and build on progressively, adapt to all the changing circumstances the next year and the year after that, that's when you have an ongoing learning experience. That's when you make every day an excellent adventure, and that's how you maximize your potential as an individual. I'd like to say that as we move forward, the changes that you have as a person will be very sharp. And I understand being sad. I'm sad too, but it's crucial to be excited about what you have going forward. Because the chance to make the next stage in your life as positive or even more positive than the one you've already had is in your hands, as long as you embrace the idea of change. So finally, I want to thank all of you for being the change that my life needed. And I then want to say, congratulations on a transformative 3 years. Let there be many more for you in the future as well. Thank you so much.